Mr. Flysuit and the Mandela Effect. Credit, James Hunter. It was dark as the heart of the ocean when we got there. The moon, a sickly thumbnail of silver hanging in the sky, was so obscured by rolling clouds it was as useless as tits on a helicopter. We had camping flashlights though, big old yellow sons of bitches that required a battery as big as a baseball to run. Danny was the first one to turn his on, cutting through the deep cemetery gloom with the yellow beam. The house looked the same as it always did. Same boxy columns, same chip paint, same dull windows. Except now, the front door was open. Waiting for us. Just a crack, understand, showing a thin crease of inky black. But it was fucking open. If there'd been one brain cell between the whole lot of us, we would have turned right back that second and screw youthful pride right up its ass. But here's the thing about being young. You think you'll live forever. There's always a joke and a dare, because nothing bad can happen to a 14-year-old. Nothing really bad. Like death. "Let's do this shit," Danny said, overcoming with false vibrato, cracking his knuckles like he was getting ready to wade into a fist fight instead of mouth to hell. "Yeah," I replied with a nod, trying not to sound like a colossal piece of chicken shit. "Does that mean you're volunteering to go first?" Scooter asked, his gaze shifting nervously between me and the barely open door. His question hung in the air. Every eye was fixed on me, expectant for an answer. "You a pussy, dude?" those stares inquired. "You all talk, or do you got the balls to back it up?" "Yeah, obviously," I replied with a sniff and an eye roll. "It's just a shitty old house, and if there is some crackhead hobo..." I paused, bent over, and picked up a rusty piece of rebar lying on a pile of loose screw. I'll fucking show him what's what. With the rebarb in one hand and my square flashlight in the other, I soldiered forward, leaving the others to trail behind me. I took a deep breath and trudged up the stairs. The old wood bowed under my weight, letting out soft moans and groans as though the house were a living thing. I flashed the light across the windows, but the curtains, dreary yellowing things, were closed tight, obscuring the interior. I used the length of the rebarb to nudge the door open, sweeping my beam into the foyer. A fine layer of dust, recently disturbed by the passage of feet, Jackie probably, covered the hardwood floors, which were heavily scuffed and stained. Floor wallpaper, bubbled, deeply cracked, and sprouting more than a few splashes of graffiti, decorated the walls. I inched into the room, sweeping my flashlight left. The beam washed over a boxy living room with the same tattered and peeling floral print. There was an old couch, pushed up against the far wall, an ugly thing of faded orange and yellow fabric, which had to be from the 60s. Most of the cushions were slashed open, trailing white stuffing like gory ropes of intestine. There was also a stained mattress in the center of the floor, covered in empty beer bottles and old piss stains, which reeked like a hot porta-john. The whole house smelled like that. Fucking gross. Further on, connecting to the living room, was a square dining space, with a great big old table, which lay in pieces on the floor, all its legs ripped off and scattered. Nothing that way either. I paused for a moment, stealing a peek over my shoulder at my friends, who were lined up on the porch behind me, clustered together, looking small, pale, and frightened to their toes. "Come on," I said. "The stairs must be over that way." I jerked my head towards the right, and moved deeper into the house. There was a kitchen up ahead, the floors covered in green linoleum. The few appliances that remained, a beat-to-shit gas stove and a drunkenly leaning fridge with the door hanging open, were so dusty I could tell they hadn't been used in ages. A lone chair, wooden and high-backed, sat in the middle of the room. There was a big staircase hugging the right wall, shooting up like an arrow, but I didn't see the stairs leading down. There were two doors, though, situated between the kitchen and the staircase, and both were closed up, nice and tight. I adjusted and readjusted my grip on the length of rebar. my palm slick and sweaty, and headed for the pair of doors. The floorboards squawked and squealed as my friends followed, completely silent except for their footfalls and the sound of heavy breathing. I padded closer to the pair of doors, a creeping dread building on my stomach and crawling up my throat like a bout of nausea. I pushed it down, determined not to pussy out. Which door to pick was a coin toss, so I tucked the flashlight under my armpit and pulled open the one on the left, closest to the kitchen. I let out a ragged sigh of relief as my light splashed over the interior of a small bathroom with a chipped clawfoot tub, a porcelain sink, and a broken mirror, the jagged pieces carpeting the floor. One down, one to go. I scooted over to the next door, this time hesitating, my hand quivering on the knob. Sweat broke out across my forehead and my heart thumped like a jackhammer in my chest. More than anything in the world, I didn't want to open that door. I didn't want to go down into the basement and meet the hobo in the furs. "What's the fucking holdup?" Carolyn taunted from behind. "You lose your nerve, Mac? Maybe you need to grow a pair. Might be I have some I could lend you." She grabbed at her crotch. That earned a chorus of nervous, muted chuckles. I absently flipped her the bird in reply, steeled myself, and yanked open the door, ready for a faceless monster to pounce. The door whooshed out, but there was no monster waiting. No man loitering at the foot of the stairs, demanding I let him in. I took the wooden steps, slowly, descending into the dark, as the hairs on the back of my neck stood stiff. There were spaces between each step, and I couldn't help but envision a pale, white hand, shooting out and wrapping around my ankle, clamping down like a vice, and dragging me away. But there was no hand, or ankle grabbing, just like there'd been no murderous hobo. The basement was gloomy and dank, but no creepier than the rest of the fucked up house. Some old boxes, wrapped and moldy from the accumulated moisture, took up space against one wall. Copper tubing, littered with spider webbing, decorated the ceiling. There was a rusted, pot-bellied furnace complete with an actual door for feeding in wood in the left corner. Metal ductwork poked out from the furnace with garnered fingers disappearing into the ceiling. Beneath the stairs was the water heater, and just as Jackie had said, there was a jagged hole in the concrete next to it. An artificial cave, 6 feet high and 4 or 5 deep. Tucked inside was a pallet made of old blankets. But no bum. There was, however, liquor. A shit ton of bottles. Some plastic, some glass. Wine, whiskey, vodka, schnapps. Good stuff too, though. No smokes. "Holy shit," Danny said, spotting the treasure trove. "We hit motherfucking pay dirt here." The others whooped and hollered, clapping each other on the shoulders in congratulations. The fear banished, replaced by adrenaline and greed. Jackie didn't look relieved, though. He looked even more anxious. "Well, let's get this real party started," Scooter said, shoving past me and into the hole, pulling free a full bottle of Goldschnegger. He held it up, giving it a swirl, the flecks of gold dancing and weaving in the beam of my flashlight. We'd been drinking for maybe an hour when we heard the clunk, clunk, clang of something scraping and rooting around. It sounded like an animal, a big one. Everyone fell deathly silent, eyes going wide and wild as the sound came again. Clank, clank, clang! Louder this time. In the quiet, it wasn't hard to tell where the sound was coming from. The pot-bellied furnace in the corner. Everyone scrambled to their feet, beating a hasty retreat for the stairs as the sound grew louder and more persistent. Jackie was the first one up the stairs, his shoes thudding on the wood, followed by Carolyn, Scooter, Danny, and me bringing up the rear. Everyone froze, though, as the handle on the furnace firewood hatch screeched open, and the metal door swung outward with a rusty groan. My hands trembled, flashlight wavering, rebarb twitching as I stared at a square of pitch black, hardly large enough to accommodate a small child, in the center of the furnace. There was nothing there, though. And for a second, I almost chalked it up to coincidence. Maybe some sort of critter had gotten in, like a possum or a large squirrel. But then a pallid face, completely bald, maggot white, and deeply creased like old boot leather, appeared in the opening. A crude set of symbols were carved across its forehead, the wounds still red and puffy. After all these years, I can still see that damn symbol, clear as day, like it's tattooed on my brain or something. The breath caught in my throat, and I thought I might vomit as the thing stared at me with milky, pink eyes. I would have said it was blind. How could it not be? But then it winked at me, as though reading my thoughts, and offered me a sly, lopsided smile. Its pencil-thin lips pulled back, revealing a mouthful of nubby, black teeth like pieces of broken glass. A tongue, chalky and white, spilled free, running along the edges of its too wide mouth. Then the creature, and I was sure as shit it was a creature and not a man, pulled itself from the furnace, and the herky-jerky motions of bad stop-motion animation. Spidery hands tipped with dirt-caked nails came first, attached to overlong arms as it wriggled and wormed its torso free. Its arms were bulky, as though it was wearing jacket after jacket, but it didn't take too long to notice the coats were moving, shifting. I gagged. Not coats, though that was an easy mistake to make at a glance. Flies. Millions of the black-bodied things. And then over top of those were the pelts, rough-cut garments, crudely stitched together into a tattered cloak of fluttering trophies. There were 2 patches of pale pink flesh, almost like dried, uncured pig skin, woven into that grotesque mantle. 1 piece of leather, a little larger than my palm, had a faded tattoo on it. A pair of praying hands with a rosary looped around them like a noose. "Holy fucker McFuckerson," Danny screamed from behind me, grabbing my shirt with a meaty palm and pulling me on. His words, bustling with unapologetic terror, seemed to jar everyone to frantic motion. We all broke like a herd of stampeding cows. Unlike Jackie, I didn't pause when I reached the top. I didn't need to because I could hear the thing scrambling and skittering over the concrete floor, drawing ever closer. I knew it hadn't made it to the stairs yet, but I could almost feel it reaching for me, its hot, faded breath brushing up against the nape of my neck. I darted through the entry. Danny promptly slammed the door shut behind me with a booming thunderclap. "Get the fuck out of the way," Carolyn hollered, sprinting towards us with the lone chair from the kitchen. I shuffled back, head reeling from what I just witnessed, as she crammed the chair up beneath the doorknob, and not a moment too soon. The second she had it wedged firmly in place, the door handle rattled and shook, followed by a fist slamming against the wood. Thunk, thunk, thunk! I stared at the door, trapped and immobilized. And the creature shrieked an inhuman noise like a buzzsaw cutting into a piece of sheet metal. "Let me in! Let me in! Let me in! Let me in!" "That's it," Danny said, tugging on my shoulder. I didn't need much prompting. I reeled around and beelined for the front door, except Scooter was already there, desperately turning the knob, trying to pry the door open. It didn't budge. Not an inch. "The windows," I said, my voice oddly calm and detached. "Bust 'em out." Jackie was moving before the words were even out of my mouth, sprinting towards the window in the living room. He threw back the musty yellow curtains, but faltered. Confusion and fear dashing across his face in turns. It was easy to understand why. Instead of cloudy glass staring out at the forlorn graveyard, there was simply a sheet of implacable wallpaper, smooth and seamless, as though no windows had ever existed there. Carolyn tried the windows near the stairwell leading to the second floor. More of the same. Just blank walls covered in that gnarly floral print. Another crash from the basement door drew my eye. The creature was still shrieking its "let me in" him, but now it was working over the door like a boxer going to town on a heavy bag. The door rattled in its frame, the wood bowing and splintering with each successive blow. "Back door and kitchen windows," I yelled at Jackie. "Check 'em all. Everyone else." I paused, glancing around wild-eyed. "Weapons. Find a weapon. Anything you can defend yourself with." Everyone scattered, most heading for the living room and dining rooms. Well, I made for the basement door, since I already had a weapon, and a decent one. I planted myself in front of the basement door, flashlight trained on the cracking wood, rebar raised and ready to go. "It's the same back here," Jackie called out, scampering out of the kitchen, a pitted butcher knife clenched in one white-knuckled fist. "Door won't budge, and there aren't any windows." I spun in a slow circle like an animal trapped in a cage. "What are we gonna do, Mac? What the fuck are we gonna do?" I shook my head because I didn't have an answer. The others appeared a few seconds later, clutching an assortment of wooden table legs from the dining room and the busted beer bottles from the piss-stained mattress in the living room. "All right, back door's fucked too," I said, never taking my eyes off the basement stairwell. "Only one way left is to go up." "You fucking high," Danny hissed. "Why would we go up? There's 5 of us and 1 of him, and we got weapons. Let's just bust this sumbitch up." "Shut the fuck up, Danny," I yelled, rounding on him. "That thing isn't human, you fucktard. It's a monster, a demon, or some shit, I don't know. You don't even have a say because you're the only reason we're here. Let's fucking go there. Jackie's full of cow pies. This is all your fault, jackass. Now shut your mouth and get upstairs. Maybe the windows will work up there, and if not, well, maybe there's a way to get to the roof." Jackie and Caroline went without hesitation, but Danny and Scooter lingered, heading over to the living room, preparing to take a stand. "Don't be morons," I said, backtracking for the staircase, happy as a pig in shit to get away from that screeching, "Let me in, let me in, let me in, let me in," playing on repeat like a broken record. I was a few feet away from the staircase when the basement door exploded outward, chunks of wood flipping through the air like shrapnel. The thing from the basement didn't waste a second. Nope, scuttled out on all fours like an overgrown human-faced fly. "Mr. Flysuit," I thought deliriously. "Let's get this fucker," Daddy screamed, charging in, a broken table leg upraised like a medieval mace while his flashlight beam bobbed and weaved. Scooter was a step behind. I rounded the stairs but had to stop. Had to. And watch. I honestly can't say why. Mr. Flysuit was skinny, even with the layers of shifting flies carpeting his body, but it moved like a snake and hit like a Mack truck. Danny lashed out with his club, a wild swing, which sailed clear over the creature's head. The demon shot inside his guard and blasted him in the chest with a closed fist, lifting Danny into the air and flipping him ass over tea kettle. He crashed in a heap not far off, limbs splayed out, eyes hazy from shock. I hesitated, eyeing the stairs, then Danny. Stairs, then Danny. Finally, I rushed over, helping the moron to his feet, glancing up in time to see Scooter lunge forward, thrusting a broken bottle toward the thing's face. Flysuit batted aside the attack with lazy ease, then leaped like a pit bull, nails slashing into Scooter's throat, drawing a line of red across his skin. Scooter dropped the bottle, staggered back, clutching his ruined neck. Mouth wide as blood leaked between his fingers. Flysuit wasn't done. It tackled Scooter around the middle, driving a shoulder into his gut, bringing him to the ground. I tore my eyes away. There was nothing we could do here. Not for Scooter. Maybe not for ourselves. Instead, I turned and dragged Danny up the stairs, pursued by a gut-wrenching sound of Mr. Flysuit chewing and slurping. There was another door at the top of the stairs, but Jackie and Carolyn were gone, vanished. Danny and I shoved our way through, leaving Scooter to die, guilt riding my back like a monkey.